Well, hello, everybody. We are live, and I'm so happy to see you tonight. So, welcome to the live. Let me know who you are. If you're joining me live, I'm absolutely so glad that you're here. Let me know that you can hear me, that you can see me. And if you're joining me on replay, I'm also glad that you're here. So, we've got one watching. So, if you can hear me, let me know. Hopefully, you can hear me. Hopefully, everything is going okay. So I'm just going to assume that you can. So I'm going to get Hi, Majoy. How are you? It's good to see you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to get started. Thank you so much. So today what we're going to talk about is something that's actually been on my mind lately. There's a lot going on, and if you're feeling overwhelmed by life in general, I want you to know that you're not alone. And today, I've actually created this space, a safe space for us to be able to talk about struggles, to be able to share some wisdom, to be able to uplift one another. So, drop a heart in the chat if you've ever felt overwhelmed by any life challenges, and I'm sure everybody has. And make sure to share where you're tuning in from because I love to see how far our community actually reaches. One of the things that we know is that life can be tough sometimes, but it's how we handle those challenges that really define our journey. And then, how many times have you heard that before? Because I'm guessing you've probably heard it a lot. And I know I have. And I'm not here today to give you a bunch of tips that you can't use. I want to be able to help you, give you some tips and so that you can handle challenges and these tips will actually work and you can actually weave them into your already probably very busy life. Many of you are moms, dads, you have careers, you work, there's a lot going on. So, if you're new here, I would like to introduce myself a little bit. And if you're not new here, it did occur to me today that I don't think that I've ever properly introduced myself. So let me do that. My name is Isabella, and on this channel, we discuss all kinds of things that are really geared to helping you live a longer, happier, healthier life. And if you're wondering what makes me qualified to give you tips on healing, mindset, health, and etc., because we cover a lot of well-being things. I do have a doctorate in psychology and behavioral neuroscience. So that's the intersection between our mental health and biological processes, particularly and especially your brain. Well, that's true. But I want to tell you that that is not what makes me qualified. I think that what makes me qualified is that I also have experienced most of the things that I talk to you about. And so today, when we're talking about Strugglebus 101, I am definitely qualified to be on that bus because I've had a ticket, a long standing ticket for a really long time. So I will share a little bit. I did suffer from depression, anxiety, I had panic attacks, the whole nine for many, many years. And it wasn't until probably about 3 years ago that I knew that something had to change. And so I started a journey of healing that led me here. And today I'm going to share some personal experiences. I'm going to share some practical tips. I'm going to answer your questions on how you can stay strong during these hard times. So you can feel free to ask me any questions that you want in the chat. And if something resonates with you, you can type yes in the chat, whatever. Um, so, first and foremost, let's just acknowledge something by acknowledging the struggle. It's okay. It really is okay because life is going to knock us down. It's going to take our breath away. And sometimes it's going to make us laugh so hard that it hurts, but it's all part of the journey. And I think a lot of times we just get super, super busy, super trying to, constantly be the best, have the perfection, and we don't want to show that weakness. And so that's the first thing we need to do. We need to just acknowledge that, yep, we need to acknowledge that sometimes struggles happen. And I have prepared some talking points that I have picked out for us today, that I believe will help us all. Okay. So the first thing is, and hi, there's someone else that just joined. Welcome to today's topic. I'm so glad that you're here. Just let me know who you are in the chat. We are so welcoming in this community. So let's just start with the first talking point. The first talking point is understanding being overwhelmed, what it looks like. It can look like stress, anxiety, burnout. So, what is being overwhelmed? What does that look like in your life? Well, if you find yourself feeling scatterbrained, in other words, you're not really able to focus or you're having a hard time remembering things, that could be one sign that there's a lot of overwhelming things happening in your life. You could be overthinking everything. So, what does that look like? When someone says you're overthinking everything, it's basically that even making small decisions will seem extremely difficult to you. I mean, I'm talking decisions about what are you going to eat? Maybe what you're making for dinner. You could have racing thoughts, so you cannot shut down your mind, and it will usually interfere with your sleep as well. You'll be constantly worried about the past or the future, and you're going to feel probably like there's never enough time. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of things that could be happening to you mentally from feeling overwhelmed. There could be some other things going on, but this is usually something that is pretty, that most people will share in terms of common signs if they're suffering from some sort of overwhelm. You could have some emotional signs as well. So, emotional signs could be that, you know what, you're just feeling irritable. You're snapping at everybody around you over small things. Someone just breathing next to you could cause you to be irritated. You could experience an anxiety or panic attacks, but that's on a deeper level. You could have a sense of what's the point, right? So you feel disconnected from things in your life that once perhaps brought you joy. And just overall, you just feel emotionally exhausted. Like you really have nothing else to give. And so those are some things that you could be struggling from in terms of emotional signs. So there's going to be mental signs, emotional signs, and guess what? It's going to be physical too. Physical, unfortunately. So you could be suffering from some headaches that maybe you haven't had before. Maybe your muscles are cramping at night, muscle pain. Maybe you're experiencing a tight chest. Maybe you're just feeling drained and tired, even though you've actually slept for 8 to 10 hours, maybe 14 hours. So there could be some changes in your appetite. Either you could be overeating or you could be undereating. So you could have a loss of appetite. You could have some stomach issues. So you could be experiencing like nausea, maybe some digestive problems, maybe restlessness, trouble sleeping. Insomnia is a huge one. And sleep is really so important. I will tell you that because if you are having problems sleeping because you're feeling overwhelmed, well, now you have lack of sleep. And because now you're feeling overwhelmed and you have lack of sleep, now you've got even double the problems. So there is a connection that's really happening between being overwhelmed, stress, anxiety, burnout, and now you're not sleeping. So that's further just exasperating the problem that you're experiencing. And I'm telling you, that if you were to look at statistics overall, and I'm not asking you to, but I'm just saying that one of the rising problems that we're having is this anxiety, especially in our young people, even kids as young as 10. I mean, that's one of the fastest rising spaces where you see this happening, and that's just really unfortunate. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the first stage of stress that you may be experiencing. But first, I want to tell you something. If you don't already know this, stress is a natural reaction when we face challenges, and it actually can be motivating at times if it's temporary. So it can motivate you to get some things done. But if it's long term, if you're having chronic stress, then it's just simply going to wear you down. Okay? It will trigger in your body a fight or flight mode. And unfortunately, when it does that, it releases adrenaline and cortisol. The reason it's doing that is because your body is wanting you to react. But if you're doing that all the time, imagine your body in a fight or flight mode all the time. Okay. Your body can't handle, after a while, after having all of that adrenaline and cortisol just pumping through your system, something's got to give. Okay. So anxiety happens when stress becomes constant. And if you've never experienced anxiety, it can be a difficult thing to experience, and especially when it doesn't go away, because it usually turns into like this excessive worry, and it makes us feel just on edge. We don't feel good. We feel uneasy. We're restless. And genuinely, what happens is when you lay down to try to get some sleep, because there is a correlation here, you can't shut your mind off. You can't concentrate, and you definitely have problems getting a good night's sleep. And then you end up into burnout because everything has become just way too much. And burnout happens when all those things I just talked about, those mental, emotional, and physical exhaustion. Well, now you just burn out. Okay. And there are some signs, and a lot of people talk about that, especially if you're starting a new job, if you're a parent, in your career. And signs of that will be, I think, probably the most common sign of burnout. And I've experienced it in my prior career, which is just basically losing motivation for things that I used to care about. And you will feel you literally will feel numb or emotionally detached. And you no longer really find joy in the things that you used to find joy in. So, and also another thing that people don't really know about when it comes to burnout, most of the time they're just talking about this idea of feeling detached or losing motivation, but you're going to feel very, very tired. So there's an extreme fatigue, and it just doesn't go away. Even if you're sleeping like 22 hours, and I'm just saying that, but sometimes people do. So, overall, what I'm telling you is that being overwhelmed, and a lot of us are feeling that right now, it doesn't happen overnight. And it certainly doesn't happen in a vacuum. It needs time to kind of build up. And so, if you're able to recognize some of these signs that I just went over early, then you'll be able to manage it better. And this is a relatable reality because we just can't wish it away. There are things I wish we could, but there are things that we have to do to be able to manage it. And I think I told you already, and if I haven't, stress is inevitable. It just is. I mean, it's part of life, and sometimes it can be a good thing. It can motivate us to get things done. But we deal with daily hassles every single day, which is part of stress. And daily hassles are those little things like maybe your alarm clock didn't go off, maybe there's a huge line in your favorite coffee place, maybe you're having a hard time with your internet, etc. So then the next thing is, if I gave you these steps, these things, these tips to recognize, what these signs are that you're reaching burnout or you're feeling overwhelmed, and I told you that you need to manage it, manage it, excuse me. Why do we get overwhelmed then? Well, this is where I think the secret ingredient happens for us to be able to manage it, because we get so much advice. There's so much advice on how to deal with our mental health, how to manage it. Even though there's still a stigma attached to it, we get a lot of advice. Well, let me tell you some common causes so that you can manage it. Too many responsibilities. That's probably first and foremost. So if you're feeling stretched, very thin at work, at home, or in relationships, that's no, the first common cause of being overwhelmed. High expectations. Maybe you're putting too much pressure on yourself to be perfect. Okay. That's a huge problem, especially with kids. That's another thing that's happening. Lack of control. Maybe you feel helpless in some sort of difficult situation and you feel like you have no control over it. Maybe you have some unprocessed emotions. So you're holding in stress, you're holding in grief, you're holding in past trauma. You're not allowing yourself to heal. Not enough rest, but wow, that's like a catch 22, because if you're feeling overwhelmed and having anxiety and you're suffering, you're not getting sleep. So overworking yourself without taking time to rest and recharge. And that just doesn't include sleep, by the way. It does include taking time for yourself. Um, you may have a favorite thing that you like to do to be able to really take care of yourself. So, there are a lot of ideas that I could tell you, but that really is a personal thing. And then life transitions, I think that's a really huge one. Have you moved recently? Have you divorced recently? Have you married recently? Have you had a kid recently? Or have you lost someone that you love recently? And that doesn't have to sound exactly the way that it means. It doesn't automatically mean that someone's transitioned. It could mean that you've lost a relationship. So now that you understand some of the common things that happens when we get overwhelmed, there are some steps that you can take. These are relatable, real things that you can take to overcome feeling overwhelmed. So I told you first that you need to acknowledge it. Um, why is that so hard for people to do? I think people feel that if they acknowledge that they're overwhelmed, then they're acknowledging some sort of weakness, or they can't get everything done that they need to done. And I will tell you, the biggest group that this happens in is usually moms. But that is a whole nother conversation. Recognizing that you're overwhelmed is the first step. Another thing that you can do, this is an active thing you can do no matter where you're at right now. You could do it with me right now. You could pause, take a moment, take a deep breath in, and release it. You would be surprised at how much stress that actually releases, because you could also use imagination, where you're imagining pulling in all that stress and releasing it back out to the universe. Another thing that you could do is prioritize. You can identify what you are able to control in your world, and you want to focus on more small, manageable steps. And so I just want to take a moment here. If you have any question, welcome to the live, whether you're on the replay or you're here with me right now. I really appreciate you showing up. Today, we're talking about really just being on the struggle bus. And I mean, most of us there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot going on in the world. There may be a lot going on in your personal bubble right now. So we need to acknowledge that. We're talking about it. We're creating a space. If you want to share something, you can share. I'm giving you practical tips that you can use, that you can actually use. You don't have to buy anything. for a lot of these that I'm talking about. And I promise you'll be on your way to feeling at least that you have a little bit of control, which tends to make you feel better and reduce anxiety. So, that leads me into this space that we made, which is a support space. But know that you're not alone. You can seek support because talking to your friends, your loved ones, someone that you trust, someone that you actually trust with this type of information can help. So, I have a question for you. If you're in the live, you have the opportunity to answer. If you're on replay, go ahead, put it all in the comments. But have you ever felt so overwhelmed that you actually just shut down physically, mentally, emotionally? And if you did, what helped you get through it? Because we cannot have enough tips and advice when it comes to this. And I absolutely have felt so overwhelmed that I absolutely just shut down completely. And it was the first time that it ever happened to me, and it scared me. I just didn't know. I I would teach about this stuff. I learned about this stuff, but it had never happened to me, and when it did, it frightened me. So what did I do to get through it? I actually reached out. It was probably the first time that truly felt like I reached out through a support system. I think it was because it just purely frightened me. It scared me. I just never had that happen. So, if you've ever felt so overwhelmed that you just completely shut down and you feel comfortable sharing that, what helped you get through it? And also, what is one small thing that you do when you start feeling stressed? I think we can all feel it coming on. Sometimes it just it comes and it just grabs us by the hair of the shirt. But what is one small thing that you do when you start feeling stressed? And I can tell you what I do is when I start feeling stressed is I actually remove myself from most things, and I really just take a deep breath in. Imagine I'm taking in that stress and then I'm releasing it out into the universe, and I'm pulling back in positive energy. And also just removing myself really for me, because I'm more of an introverted person, I guess. Doesn't mean you're not sociable or anything like that. It just means that usually if you are introverted, you tend to recharge better on your own, where if you're more extroverted, you recharge better around people. So that's what I do. Let me know what you do in the comments. And do you recognize any of these signs that I went over? So if you're just joining us, I went over a few of the signs from a mental, emotional, and physical space if you're really feeling overwhelmed. And there are other signs that you can recognize. And do you recognize any of these signs in yourself right now? And if you do, if you recognize them, I mean, that's huge. You can just basically be able to manage them better by recognizing them. So I have another talking point. Again, thank you for all who are joining. If you have any questions, um, and I just had a in the comments, so I'm going to take the time to respond to this. So I have started getting into the practice of manifestation, Majoy says. Oh, and just manifesting good energy. When stressed, I remind myself to get out of the thoughts and remember I will attract more negative if I do. Absolutely. That is a phenomenal practice that you're doing, Majoy. And I also practice that as well. So yes, thank you for that. Majoy is practicing manifestation, manifesting good energy, which is so important because if you're stressed, then it's just going to compound, right? Like she said. So you don't want to attract more negative energy. So thank you for that. That's another excellent, relatable, doable tip. So let's talk about how to manage. This is our second talking point. How to manage when you're feeling overwhelmed, how to basically regain back your control. Because once you recognize that you're overwhelmed, the next step is how do you manage it? You need to learn how to manage it before it takes over your life. And the key here is to shift away and Joy just gave a great example of how, because this would work perfectly, how she shifts away from reacting to this negative energy or to feeling overwhelmed to actively managing it in a healthy way. So she's manifesting good energy to stave off, keep away any further negative energy. And if you think you're immune from that, like I said, life, I mean, daily hassles, stress, it's part of life. And so let's talk about practical ways that we can manage and we can push the reset button, literally. So I'm going to talk to you about something that you can do called, and I've never spoken about this before in any of my videos, so this is brand new information, hot off the presses that I'm giving you, but it's called pause and breathe. And when you are overwhelmed, your nervous system overdrive. You know how you can slow it down? Just simply by breathing. So you take a deep breath in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale for 6 seconds. This will calm your body. It absolutely will. And remind yourself when you are doing it, I am in control. I can handle this one step at a time. This will start inactivating your nervous system. So it's not just a mental thing, it's a physical thing that's actually working in your body. Okay. Another thing that I'm not sure I've shared this with you, but if I have, I'm going to share it again. You need to identify the main stressor. So this goes back to knowing what it is that's stressing you out. Okay. And I know, Majoy, I think you keep a journal. I don't know if you keep a journal for this, but very important to be able to write down a lot of this stuff. And you want to write down what is actually overwhelming you. You need to be able to identify it. I bet if you ask someone that's close to you that's feeling this way, and you ask them, well, what is it that's bothering you? Or what is it that's stressing you out? They'll have a hard time really pinpointing it. It's something you got to kind of think about, because you need to separate from that what can you control versus what you can't control. And then you'll be able to focus on the next small step that you need to accomplish or get done instead of looking at the entire problem. So it's basically just teasing out a lot of these things that can be overwhelming you. And it's so important to do. Um, I'm going to tell you that another step that you can do to be able to manage this is just do a really quick reset. And what is that? Well, a really quick reset is if you feel that you're stuck in whatever's happening in your life, change your environment for just a few minutes. I used to do this at work a lot because I worked in a really like small office, and I would just start feeling overwhelmed with all the things that I needed to do. So I would get up and I would take a short walk or just step outside for fresh air if you can. If you can't, just get up, move away from the environment. There's a lot of advice out there that says just get up out of your chair, push your chair back, stretch, do whatever. I'm asking you to actually change your environment, because your brain is going to recognize that you made a change, and it's going to start prepping you for a different emotion, a different mood. Okay. I promise this will work for you. Drink some water, listen to some music that you like. I think, Majoy, you shared a really one of your favorite tunes, the songs that you like to listen to that helps you, and so yeah, on your community page, which was really nice. So movements will shift your energy and reset your mind. Okay, and so why does that work? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about this. I'm going to tell you why the power of small steps and things actually work for you. So you've got up, you've gotten out of your space. You're able to think about things from a small step to be able to gain control. Because when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, it's when usually you're trying to fix everything at one time. You can't do that. Instead, you need to ask yourself, what is one thing? Ask yourself this, write this down. What's one thing I can do right now? Right now. And you just take one small step. And once you complete that step, you're creating a momentum. It's going to help you feel in control because you feel like you've accomplished something and now you can move on to the next thing. So what does that look like in your life? How do we look at that from a practical standpoint? So do you make to-do list? I'm going to let you know I don't make to-do list. I don't do that. I know a lot of people in my life that do. But is your to-do list maybe too long? So if your to-do list is too long, try to focus on just getting one task done first. Okay. So maybe that to-do list could be cut back a little bit. If you're feeling emotionally drained from the minute that you just got out of bed, I mean, if you're already emotionally drained, you definitely need to take 10 minutes in the morning or at night, however you can fit it in your life, maybe in the middle of the day for yourself, just for yourself. It's called a self care break. I don't care if you're sitting, whatever you're doing, it's just for you, drinking tea, coffee, or just not doing anything. And if you're feeling this overwhelmed at work and you can't really, move yourself out of that space, or your to-do list that your boss gave you, maybe you're the boss and you have tons of things to do. Just write down 3 of the things that you want to get done. Just 3. And here's a biggie that I think we need to spend a little bit of time on because a lot of people struggle with this, and it's negative thoughts. So if you're stuck in a pattern of negative thoughts, you need to say one positive affirmation. Okay. You could say, I can get this done. I attract positive energy. Whatever you need to do, go to my playlist on positive affirmations. I have a playlist there for a reason because it's all tied in. So if you're new to my channel or if you've been here, thank you to everybody. I appreciate all my subscribers and people that just pop in and pop out. I want to tell you that the reason those positive affirmations are there, because it might seem strange along with my playlist of frequencies, it's because it's all tied in together. It's all tied in. It will all help you heal. It will help you calm yourself. It will help you reduce anxiety. It will help you gain confidence. So find an affirmation. You don't even have to use mine, but find one that you like because it's definitely going to help you. And I know they're weird at first. When I first started saying them, it was super strange to just start saying all this nice stuff to myself, which, think about it. We say nice things to people all the time, but how odd it is to say nice things to ourselves. So here's a question for you. So if you're here and you feel like answering it, please let me know. If you're on replay, you can put it in the comments. But what's one small step that you can take today to make things feel more manageable in your life? So we've been talking about recognize it. We've been talking about things that you can do. What's one small step that you can do today to make things feel more manageable in your life? I can tell you what I did today because I was feeling overwhelmed. I've been feeling overwhelmed, I guess, for the past couple of weeks. And so what I did was I had a bunch of, I just wrote things down on everything that I saw within my sight on my desk. And I decided to put all those things together in one spot and toss the other ones. And I can tell you, it just made me feel better overall. So I'll ask again. For those of you that just showed up, welcome. For those of you that are on watching this on the replay, I really appreciate it. So I'm asking, you can put in the comments, or if you're here now, what's one small step that you can take today if you're feeling overwhelmed to make things feel more manageable. Now, when we're overwhelmed, many of us, and I'm guilty, uh, will turn to unhealthy habits. And they're all personal, but some of those unhealthy habits could be avoiding getting things done. So you're avoiding tasks, overthinking. I don't know if you really knew how damaging that can be to you emotionally, mentally, and physically. Emotional eating, that's a biggie, or just plain just shutting down emotionally. I'm going to give you some options instead of these unhealthy coping habits. Maybe you want to try healthier coping techniques. Now, all of this needs to work in tandem with each other, but I'm going to talk about mindset. And you know that I talk about that on my channel. I love to talk about mindset because it's so powerful. I'm going to couple that with coping strategies. This is something I haven't given you before. So, this is brand new information, hot off the presses, and I am happy to share it with you. So, this is called the 5-4-3-2-1 method. This is a grounding exercise for stress. Okay. If you've never heard of it before, it is a simple yet so powerful grounding exercise that will help you calm down and just regain control of whatever feeling that you may be feeling that's getting out of control. So it could be anxiousness, you could be feeling some sort of panic, you could just be overstressed. And it simply works by bringing your focus to the present moment, and it's going to engage your senses. So I'm combining a biological component with a tip that you may hear out there and explaining to you why this is so powerful. And it's going to shift your attention away from, especially if you ruminate, if you're constantly overthinking about some sort of stressful thoughts or you have negative thoughts that constantly pop into your mind. This 5-4-3-2-1 method works. Let's talk about it. So, the first step, you take a deep breath, and you heard this earlier. So you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, and then you exhale slowly for 6 seconds. This is signaling your nervous system it's time to relax. It's time to relax. Okay? The next thing that you will do is you will acknowledge 5 things that you see. Okay? Look around whatever your area is. Name 5 objects in your environment. So, I don't know, an example would say, I see a lamp. For me, I see my computer. I could see myself there. You could see a book, maybe a cup of coffee. Why? Because this is shifting your focus from those anxious thoughts to what's physically around you. Okay, try it. I promise you, you'll be surprised. Then we did the 5, now we're doing the 4. These are 4 things you can touch. So what I want you to do is notice the texture of 4 things that you can physically feel. So you can physically feel maybe the jeans you have on, maybe the coffee mug is warm, maybe your chair is soft, maybe your phone is cool. Those are some examples. Why? Well, engaging in this touch helps ground your body and redirects that focus from stress. So you're reducing a physiological response by doing that. It's all tied in. And then the next thing is three things you can hear. Okay. So just pay attention to 3 different sounds in your surroundings. So maybe you're hearing birds, maybe you're hearing dogs barking, cars passing by, etc. And the why for this is because the focusing on the sound will then bring your attention outward. So out from inside, because you're in there with those negative thoughts, and it interrupts those anxious thoughts. Okay. If you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to ask. This is a great method. I've never shared this method. And now we're moving into number two. So we had the five, four, three, two. Two things you can smell. So you're just going to identify two things that you can smell around you. If you can't smell anything, okay, because this happens to people, just take a deep breath and think of a favorite scent. So you can still do that. So you could, if you anybody close their eyes, they can definitely imagine a scent. Scent is tied to an emotional response from so many different levels. But an example could be that you smell coffee or you faintly smell something from the window. But if you can't smell anything, just close your eyes and take a deep breath and think of your favorite scents. Again, the why for this is smell is strongly linked to the brain's emotional center. So it makes it a powerful, you are forcing your brain to shut down when it comes to that high anxiety. So I just want you to know how excited I am to share this with you because I'm giving you something you don't have to think about. If you just do these things, it actually is going to force your body to stop with all this high anxious behavior and thoughts and things. And the last thing, taste. One thing you can taste. So focus on anything you can taste. And if you're not eating, if you're not drinking, think about some taste in your mouth, or you can take a sip of water. So an example of that, maybe you're chewing gum. You can taste the mint from your gum or taste the last sip of the tea that you had. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why this works because this final step that you take fully engages all of your senses and it completes the grounding process. Okay. Oh, here's a little tip for you. I don't know if you're a baker and you like to bake bread or whatever, kneading also grounds and it's a stress reducer as well. It's all about the senses. Okay. If you've never kneaded bread, you got to touch, you got to work with it. Okay. You got to get it to the space where you can have a good loaf of bread. Okay, so why this 5 4 3 2 1 method works. Listen, it's just interrupting any negative thoughts that you may have. So you're not going to spiral out of control. So instead of focusing on stress, you become aware of your surroundings. It activates mindfulness. It actually activates mindfulness. So you don't have to sit and think about that, right? And I give you mindfulness tips on other videos, but this is going to activate it for you because it helps you stay present instead of over here worrying about your past or trying to engage in your future. And it's calming down your nervous system. So thank you, Majoy. Thank you. I love it too. That's why I'm so excited to talk about it because it's not something you have to really think about, right? So you don't have to go through all this long, drawn out thing. It just works. It engages all your senses. It signals your brain that you're safe. That's the message your brain's getting. You're safe. It's okay. It's quick. It's effective. It takes maybe 1 2 minutes tops, and it can be done anywhere. Thank you, Majoy. Thank you. Um, when to use it? Well, I just told you you can use it anywhere, but really that's up to you. So whenever you want to use this method, use it. You can use it anywhere. You could be in an airport using it. You could you could be in your house. You could be in the bathroom, just anywhere when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling stressed, and when you're feeling overwhelmed. I will tell you this, and I'm not going to go deep into this because that's a total nother topic because it is a serious thing, but if you do suffer from panic attacks, you can use this to regain control, but you definitely want to make sure that you have a support system dealing with that. You can use it before an important event. I get nervous when I come on live still. I'm not, I and when I taught, I got nervous, so I would use this to calm me down. So you could use that for an important event, maybe to calm your nerves if you're struggling with these racing thoughts. And I would tell people this, I would give you this tip. If you're a person that is having a hard time when you're in bed, your mind is just going, 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 try this. If you wake up, try this to help you settle back down. Perhaps you can get back to sleep. Just anytime you need to recenter and focus. And I will ask this. If you're on the replay, welcome. You can always leave this in the comments. If you're here, I'll just ask is, if you've ever tried this before. And if not, leave me a comment, come back when you do try it, and let me know what you think of it, and how it works for you. Another thing that I'd like to say, another tip that I'd like to give you as, because we'll wind down here in another 10 minutes or so, but time blocking. So there's a lot of stuff about time blocking out there. What is time blocking when you're dealing with stress and anxiety? Or you're not able to focus. They use this in a lot of ADHD. They give this benefit, or people that have a hard time, with that. So you set your timer for 25 minutes of focused work, and then you take a 5-minute break. Sometimes that works for people because it can help avoid feeling, some people feel paralyzed by really long to-do lists. I would suggest, though, in my experience, my background, my research, and I have someone close to me that has problems with focus, maybe not 25 minutes, maybe start out with 5 or 10 minutes, especially for someone who has a really hard time focusing. If not so much and you see yourself kind of breaking it around that 30-minute mark, go for the 25 minutes. But just know you can adjust it accordingly. Does it work? Yes, it does. Yes, it does work. So if you find yourself, if you are a fellow content creator, like I know Majoy is, maybe she doesn't have this, but if you're editing or you're thinking, you're, creative, like, in that mode, but sometimes you find yourself lack of focus with other things going on, try it. Just try it in general, whether you're a creator or a mom or a career person, whatever, just try it. Promise it works. I've talked about this, but I will mention it. These are things that require a little bit more of you to do other than the 5 4 3 2 1 method. But they do release stress physically. And I talked about mentally, I talked about emotionally, and I talked about physically. So believe it or not, journaling your thoughts also release it physically. It's the physical act of holding a pen or pencil and journaling, even typing. Maybe you're doing an electronic journal. That's okay too. Go for a walk, do a deep breath or stretching, do some yoga. Yoga is great. Yoga is absolutely wonderful for energy release, uh, and it keeps you flexible. It's physically, it's just amazing. I think it doesn't get enough play out there because people think, oh, yoga, you don't really work your body. Oh, yes, you do. People who do yoga are extremely strong, focused, balanced, and everything. And listen to whatever favorite music you have, whatever uplifting music. Don't listen to music that makes you cry. Probably stay away from that. Maybe listen to music that's going to be like happy, make you feel joy, right? Call a friend, email a friend, talk if you're seeing a therapist, and that takes courage. That is not a weakness, and I am proud of you. Or talk to someone you trust. So speak your stress out loud. Just speak it. Even if you're sitting there by yourself, and I don't have this tip in here. I will talk about that on another thing. So I'll just leave it at that. So I do have a question. What's your go-to way to calm down immediate calm down, something you need to calm down? Most of us has experienced anger. So I'd be interested to know what your tips are on that and what you use for that. You need to set your boundaries. Um, a big reason that a lot of us feel overwhelmed is because we say yes too much. We're just, yes, yes, I can do that. Yes. And unfortunately, it is especially true for women. Women tend to say yes a lot because we are more nurturing. It's not to say men aren't nurturing. I don't want to leave my males out. And yes, my males also say yes too much too. But statistically speaking, women tend to do it more. So I would just be careful how much you take on. And sometimes it's okay to say, no, I can't do that right now. Or just repackage it to where it makes better sense to you and ask yourself, am I saying yes to things that drain me? Do I feel guilty when I say no? Am I prioritizing other other people's needs over my own? Those are 3 simple questions. You could write those down in your journal, and every time you feel like something's come up, someone's asked you to do something, whatever, go down the list, okay? Learn to say no. I can't take that on right now. Set limits. It's important. Set limits at work, set limits on social media, set limits for toxic conversations because toxic people tend to negative people in your life will bring negativity to you. So you need to prioritize your own needs. I'll say this, and I've said it again, self care is not selfish, okay? Another question I'll ask, whether you're on the replay, if you're here, thank you so much. If you're on the replay, thank you so much as well. How about, do you struggle with saying no? I'd like to hear if you struggle with saying no and how do you handle it, right? Unfortunately, guilty. There was a time in my life when I struggled to say no, and I think that's what really got to me in my career because I was trying to do everything and say yes to everybody, and I ended up being saying no to myself, and that's just not a good place to be. So, some of the key takeaways that I want to basically say to you now is I want you to take a pause. Just take a pause, take in this information, stop it, go back. I'll put this, up. It'll be up. And when I do, I'll put timestamps on it so you can go. I'll be really good about it and put really detailed timestamps on it so you can go to exactly where you need to go. But just take pause and reset when you feel overwhelmed. Focus on small steps instead of the whole problem, and please try to use healthy coping strategies and don't be mean to yourself. Please don't be mean to yourself if you find yourself maybe emotionally eating or having some of these unhealthy habits. That's okay. It happens. Give yourself grace. Just try a small step. Maybe exchange one of your unhealthy stress habits that you do for something that is more positive in your life. And I will tell you that setting boundaries to protect your energy, protect your time is so powerful. And I promise you, it's like at the first step really to healing to anyone that needs to heal. And I want to say as we begin to kind of wind down here, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. Um, Hard times, they're just a part of life, but they don't define us. Okay. I grew up in an abusive environment, and I remember everything you can think of. And I remember when I was in graduate school listening to my cohorts discussing the statistics of the outcome of children such as myself that come from that really I mean, I'll just use the word abusive environment. In that moment when I was listening, I felt angry. I felt judged by those statistics because they were defining my outcome. And I just knew there was a different way, that I didn't have to be that statistic. And based off of, those outcomes that I was hearing, I was just going to be stuck and I was going to have no way out. I mean, I was never going to be successful, y'all. I was going to have mental problems for the rest of my life, et cetera, et cetera. Has anyone here ever felt that that they've heard something where they felt like someone's telling you you're going to be completely stuck, right? So, what I did was I threw myself into my work. I learned as much as I could about this idea of healing, holistic healing, trauma healing, which is really a lot of what I discuss here with a bit of science thrown in. Okay. And I define myself. You define yourself. It's your mindset. It's so important to manage your daily challenges. So don't get bogged down in the details here. Just remember that shifting your mindset, all the things that I talked about, breaking these challenges, these things into small steps, self care, not selfish at all. I recently bought myself something. And I'm going to unbox it with y'all in another live to talk to you about self care. Surround yourself with positivity, positive people. Negative voices will just amplify your struggles. Who's in your circle? Ask yourself that. Engage in uplifting content, books if you like to read, communicate like this. Have safe places, be able to talk about it. Okay. And there will be unexpected setbacks. There will be. Just know that life is unpredictable. That's why you have this information. Setbacks happen. Be kind to yourself. Just ask yourself if it happens, what can you do to control it in this moment? Okay. Um, just know that it is okay. And those are the things that I wanted to discuss and share with you and share the space with you, um, so that I could give you some tips. I recognize a lot's going on in the world, and I see that a lot of people are struggling, and I see that the pain is out there. I see our children are struggling with mental health. And that's a whole nother live or video that I will do for those parents out there. So if you have any questions for me, you can ask me and I'll answer them. If not, and you're watching this on the replay, I want to say thank you. Thank you for being part of this community. I am so happy to be able to share what I have learned in my journey with you. And I really appreciate all of you, all my subscribers. And all of my regulars, especially Majoy. Majoy, thank you for hanging out with me this whole time. I know that you're busy. I know that it's late there. I believe it's late there or early there. I can't keep track, but I just want to say thank you so much for being one of my regular viewers and for collaborating with me on anything. If you have any questions, I'll hang around for a few minutes. If not, we'll just call it a live, and I'll put this up and make sure that I put really good, thank you, Majoy, really good timestamps. So, all right. Okay. Looks like no one has any questions for oh, wait. Oh, it's 9:30 a.m. Oh, okay. Oh, yoga. Yes. You're welcome. Have a great time at yoga. Thank you so much for showing up. Thank you to everybody that showed up. I will see you until the next time. Take care of your mind, body, and soul.